Welcome to the You Are a Force podcast channel, your go-to space for real stories, fearless dreams, and unstoppable women rewriting the rules. And the force behind this podcast. Here is your host, Binoli Botadara.
Hi everyone, welcome to You Are a Force, where we celebrate women who just don't design their careers, but they redesign the whole blueprint. I'm your host Binoli Botadara, and today's guest is someone very special. She's a true architect of cultural momentum. She is a kind of a person who doesn't just see a brand, she sees the soul, story and potential. She has an illustrious career in design, luxury, art, architecture, and she has unparalleled eye for spotting what's next. She's a former editor of ELLE India magazine, a role where she played actually the editorial to reshape the voice. She's a former head of India Design ID, and she's also a recent entrepreneur who is a founder of a brand called KRSP, which is a creative agency and which reshapes the brand strategy and global collaboration. So it's my absolute honor to invite someone who is not just finding or bridging the gap between the Indian heritage and the global contemporary design, but she also has won a lot of international awards and been on the panel of a lot of international contest as well. So it's my absolute honor to welcome someone who is an extraordinary world design and branding, none other than Kamna Malik. Kamna, thank you so much for being on You Are a Force.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Binoli. It feels so nice to hear an introduction like that. I'm really, really honored. Firstly, thank you for having me on your show, and thank you for just making me a part of this circle of wonderful women that you've created. I think it's an honor for me to be included in that. So thank you for thinking of me.
Thank you so much. I mean, it just feels so beautiful to celebrate these women and women like you, because when I also say things about you in like 30 seconds, it just makes me feel so nice to just, say these words. So I'm sure it's an amazing feeling. I'm sure you have a flashback in your entire career in 30 seconds. Yeah, I did that. Yes, I did that. Oh, yeah, that happened. So, no, but thank you for being here, because it really makes me feel very special that, celebrating women, because when I was thinking of this, I really thought that I want to create something because men have enough platforms to celebrate and to glorify their voices or amplify their achievements. But I was like, no, I want to create something for women, and I'm very happy the way it's moving. It's very early days, but I think on a right track and with the baby steps. And
No, well, I think you've started with such amazing women. I think I've gone through the content that you've created, and while the podcast may be young and upcoming, but I think you've started with a bang, and I'm going to look forward to all your episodes, and more power to you.
Thank you. I think I just lucked out. I really lucked out in terms of getting these women and bless them, because they really made the podcast. It's not me, but yeah, I'm so glad to have you in a part of my journey. And I was actually this morning when I woke up and I was like, oh my God, You Are a Force is also a brand. So I'm going to be like a sponge and take everything what Kamna has to say that I can create, You Are a Force also as big as, she has made other brands look, feel good and everything. So I'm literally going to be taking every wisdom of yours to the T, and then maybe we'll try and
Though I do feel, I'm not sure if I am a force as yet, because I think while one has done a considerable body of work, I do feel that there is still so many more years to do. There is still so much more work to do. And I think I just feel that it's important to kind of have your head firmly on the shoulders for that. So I always take that with a pinch of salt, and I take it very lightly in that sense that, okay, things are happening and we've done it, but we have a longer way to go.
Oh, 100%, 100%. It's like you're evolving every single day, right? If you have arrived in life on the fifth year of your career, then there's something wrong. So, Yes,
So the current generation does feel that, and I'm sure you and I both agree to that,
I agree.
I think the Gen Z has a very different way of looking at success and just
Very
generally
different.
how they
Yeah.
look at their achievements.
Yeah, because everything has been so like available, easy, tangible for them. They never had to. We have moved from landline phones to mobile, like those Nokia
Yes,
phones to smartphones and to AI now, right? So they haven't seen
right.
anything before, so we value
Yes.
what we had and what we have, I guess. But that
No,
just
I
makes
also
us
say we
feel
come from a
so
generation
old.
when there was no social media.
No,
We
correct?
come, I mean, you remember we're all from a generation when there was this thing called hi-fi, then Orkut came, then Facebook came, and then life
Oh my
became what it
God.
became.
It was
So yeah, we had
Yahoo Messengers and ICQ.
exactly. So we've all grown up in a very different time, I would say.
I agree. I agree. That just makes us feel very old, but but no, I totally hear you. So to start, Kamna, with your journey where it started from. You studied law, so it's so bizarre that a lawyer getting into a creative side of the world. And so, what was a pivotal, basically like a possible unglamorous moment, which just made you switch from law to the world of media, design, branding? And if you can, like give us maybe how was the journey in the beginning?
Oh my God, not many people know this, Binoli, and it's really not public information. So I, I know, I know it's there somewhere on the internet for sure, but I have to say you've done your research really, really brilliantly, and I think you've started with the most hard-hitting question. I think, um, I don't know, I'm going to answer it in the most easiest way I can. I think media is not a romantic story. It is not a story that, I said that, oh, you know what, I'm going to get up one day and kind of make a career in media. Absolutely not. I come from a family of lawyers. My mom's a lawyer. Her side, my entire maternal side is all of them have careers in law and they're judges and very eminent lawyers. So I think it was walking in those footsteps and that was the plan of life. But I think my favorite line, and I think maybe during this course of this conversation, towards the end, you'll realize why I said what I said. My life is a outcome of, there's that saying that goes that life happens to you when you're busy making other plans. I think my own life is a perfect example of that line. So here I was studying law, wanting to do my master's in corporate law and mergers and acquisitions. And I wanted to go to London and do my specialization. And cut to, I get married. So, yes, I got married at the age of 21. Not many people know
Wow.
this. And yes, it's something which just a very handful of people know. But unfortunately, I mean, it was an arranged marriage. And I think without getting into too many details, I kind of walked out of that marriage in 48 hours. And there was just too much of abuse. There was just, let's just say, too many things happened in those 48 hours, which just made it impossible for me to live in that home or in that marriage any longer than I did. And I think that's really when I came back, I think and I'm not talking about a time of today where walking out of your marriage was okay or divorce was acceptable. I'm talking when I was 21. I'm talking about a very different generation. I'm talking about a time when people would not even talk about this. Even today, it's not an open dialogue. You're
Yeah.
still looked at it with a very clouded lens.
Correct.
But back there, it was a taboo completely. But I think I always have immense gratitude. I come from a family that looks at life very, very differently. And I think I have the most wonderful set of parents who never once told me that, oh no, you have to make this work because of the society. You have to do this. I think they both were like, no, if this is not the way things have to happen. You have to get up and make your own career. And I think while this was an arranged marriage, I think it wasn't something to be, in all honesty, I was not forced into it. It was just basically how sometimes some situations have to happen in your life for
Yeah.
you to pivot in a certain direction. And to me,
100%.
this was one. But I think media happened because of survival. So the minute my marriage went downhill. I had to find a career. I had to find the will to stand up on my own 2 feet. And I think after I just could not go back to law after that. It just kind of life was very different. I just could not go back. And I said, okay, what's the next best thing that I know? And my mom kind of played a important role. She kind of found something in a newspaper, and she's like, why don't you just go and give this a shot and see what you feel about it? And then, as they say, the rest is history. One thing led to the other, and 17 years in media now.
Wow. Thank you, first of all, for being so candid. I know it's never easy to actually go through something which you did, but sometimes universe has a very funny way of pushing us into different directions, which that time we just think that why did this happen to me? But I'm so glad to hear this, because that means you are a force, that you stood up for yourself at the age of 21 when the whole world would not support you, but you still heard your own voice and you did that, and that is courage to me. I mean, that is something so beautiful, that you valued and you respected your own self more than anything else. And yes, everyone else would support you, but you have to go through what you did, right?
100%.
So that's
100%. And
not easy.
that time I didn't even know
No.
what would be the repercussions. I didn't know what my life was going to be after that moment. But in that moment, when all of this was happening, and I had to make that decision of walking out, and I didn't even know how my parents are going to react to it. But I think the only thing I had in my mind was that if I stay here, I will probably be killed. I will probably not have a life to live, and I will figure it out, but I need to get out of here. And
Yeah,
that was literally, I don't know. I often wonder, Binoli, that day at 21, where did I get the courage from? But I know I did. And I know it was instinctive, but I don't regret doing that
no.
at all.
Absolutely not. I think you stood up for yourself, and you should never have regret for that. And we always, as women, we know what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah,
We decide to stay in a situation for various other reasons, but deep down
correct.
within, we know it's right or wrong. And I
Yeah,
know so many people personally, men and women, they are in miserable marriages personally, because I'm single, so most of the people, when I talk to them, they open up because they think that I would not judge. And
yeah,
I'm not even kidding, but more than 70% of the couples I know, either they're cheating on their partners, or
yeah,
they are unhappy, they're not having any physical relationship, they're only there together because of children, or
yeah,
the wives, especially the women, because they're not financially independent, they have no other choice but to remain
yeah,
there. So multiple reasons, and they have just found that this is the new normal, and then they
yeah,
decide to be happy. And I'm not judging them, but it's not for me. I can't do that. So if you have your own reason to stay put, be it. But I mean, one life to live, right? Why would you do that? I always joke with my friends that I have such high standards. There's absolutely no way I would be able to meet someone who would, check everything, because I love myself so much, and I'm genuinely very blessed with parents and the friends I have who treat me like, I'm the God's gift to mankind. And when there is someone who comes and makes you feel or belittles you, I'm like, sorry, darling, that's not for me. So,
you're absolutely right. I think the connotation of relationships has changed so much today. And I think all of us have those people around who stay in relationships for the wrong reasons. Let's put it like that. I mean, I think as a woman, and after all these years, I think I strongly believe, and I'm not saying everybody has to do this, but this is my belief. You have to be in a marriage for the right reasons. And that reason cannot be the society. The reason cannot be a child. That reason cannot be log kya kahenge. I don't understand that. Maybe I don't understand that because I never grew up in anything like that.
yeah,
I was never made to I was never made to understand that you have to do things because of people. You have to do it
right.
because you have the conviction for it or you strongly feel about it. So you're right. Even when I look around and I see marriages around me which are of convenience, um, yes, it does make me wonder. But yeah, I mean, I think to each its own, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if they are happy, that's what we want, or that's what good for everybody. But no. So starting from law to media, and then you became an editor in Elle India, which is wow. It's a fashion magazine, and so it was like a real Devil Wears Prada moment, isn't it? When you walk into a fashion magazine with no absolute experience of fashion. So how was it to actually break into that? Was it like very glamorous, or was it, or somebody? I mean, or you had to like sort of adjust, and how was it as an experience?
So, my first of all, I want to set the record straight for everybody who's going to listen to this. At least in India, fashion magazines are nowhere like what you see in the movie Devil Wears Prada. It's nowhere like that.
Really?
It's not as glamorous as you think. It's not as fancy as you see. But I think so. L, of course, was my last stint. My predominant experience has been interiors, design, decor, and that's the world of creativity that I understand very well. And I think L India was not a choice. Let me put it like that. Did I want to become the editor of L India? No, it wasn't something that I very voluntarily
Yeah,
pursued.
sure.
It was something that I'm not getting the right word for it, but it was something that was very circumstantial and very, very situational, because the company that I was working with at that point of time had different plans. And uh, I think, long story short, I was kind of put in that situation where I had to become the editor. And I think so I was the editor for about 2 years. And that was also the time I was parallelly also running India Design ID. So it was a dual role that was happening. And I think the duration of being the editor for Elle India, and as glamorous and as fancy as it sounds, and the red carpet is laid for you, you're getting free clothes, you're getting free bags, you're getting free makeup from everywhere. It sounds really glamorous on the outside, but I have to say for myself, those were the two most traumatic years of my life.
Really?
Um, I think, and I'll say that for two reasons. I think one was definitely, I became the editor just when COVID was happening. So, just the whole transition, even internally in the company and even externally, I think it was very, very painful. I think internally there were different kind of toxicities that I was dealing with, and externally, I think so. When you look at, you always keep hearing things about the fashion industry, you always keep hearing things about Bollywood, but I think I got to experience that really firsthand. It's the most non-inclusive, it's the most non-welcoming industry. I think they have their barriers so high up there that they don't. I was always viewed as the outsider, and I was not treated kindly. I was not treated, although I came with a solid experience of 12 plus years of creative experience. I was always looked as the outsider because I was not a fashion person, because I'd not made a career in fashion. So I think it was always a struggle that I was on. And, people are not kind. They don't know the struggles that you are going through. So it's very easy to make judgments. It's very easy to make other people's lives with selfish interests. But I think those 2 years also taught me a lot. I'm not going to say the entire fraternity was like that, but the majority of the fraternity was like that. Of course, like every industry has exceptions. This industry did have exceptions, and there were people who were kind, who were welcoming, who still continue to be in touch today, even though I am not sitting on that designation. But I think, to me, the industry that claims and works towards being inclusive and being creative and being forthcoming, this industry is not that. The minute they got somebody from outside, it was a very, very tough 2 years. And I think towards the end, when I decided that I am going to quit my job, um, I think there were days when I was going to bed crying daily. I was getting up crying because I just could not take the toxicity that was coming my way. And I think That's when I said, you know what, I've had enough and I am going to put down my papers. And believe you me, Binoli, when people got to know a couple of friends and people who I share that relationship with, they actually called me up and they said, why would you do that? Like, people can give an arm and a leg to have that designation, to have that sort of a life. Who in their right minds would want to give up something like that? And I think my only answer to them then, and which continues to hold true even today, is don't go by what you see outside, go by what is inside, because it's only when you get to the other side do you really see the realities of organizations, people, and everything that goes around.
And if it's not right for you, it's not right for you. It could be right for someone
Exactly.
else. So it
Exactly.
doesn't
And I
really
think,
matter.
to be very honest, Binoli, I never ever seek validation from designations. I never seeked validation from the noise that is around you, because I think right from when I was young, I was very cognizant that all of this is very transactional. All of this is very transitionary. I mean, my favorite joke sometimes is you make a mannequin sit on that designation and everybody will pray to that mannequin.
Oh,
So it
that's
doesn't
funny.
matter who you are as a person. It's literally that designation that sells. And to me, a designation cannot be my identity or my certificate of validation.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. When I started my career with insurance, and that to life insurance. And
Wow.
I had no idea, and I come from a business family, so no one around me, like, my friends, or I did not know how to make a career into finance or whatever. And this I just stumbled upon during my MBA as a campus interview. And I was one of the maybe hundreds to get shortlisted. And I was like, oh, I've arrived in life. And that's when, the whole world of life insurance gets into the play. And in those days, in India, like the privatization was just happening. And before that, we only had LIC. And only people's perception was this agents coming and selling life insurance. And that wasn't me. I was working in the bank insurance through banks. Long story short, it was so toxic. It was one of the worst. I used to joke with my friends that I must have done some sins in my past life to start my career with life insurance, because it's the product itself is awful, so no one wants to buy. On top of it, the privatization is happening. No one knows whether ICICI is going to be there or not. Prudential will get bankrupt. So I can totally relate to it, and I tried escaping it, and eventually I found my way into asset management, but till I did not do it. I did extremely well on paper. I was growing. I was making a lot of money. I was getting promotions by promotions every single year, but I was not sleeping happy at night. So I totally relate to you. But I want to go to something very special for you, because when you speak about the India Design ID, there's a special spark into your eyes. So I want to pick that up. That you led India Design ID, featuring 120 decor brands and maybe 35
Yeah.
global speakers. So can you tell us, was there any one speaker or exhibit which completely shifted your thinking, the way you think as a design, or the power of design?
I think, India Design ID happened to me in two parts. The first time that it happened to me was um, when I was employed with Ogan for a year, and I had a boss at that time called Pramiti Madhavji, and I think I would want to make a special mention for her here, because I think a lot of how I see design today is a lot to do with the training that I had with her for a year. Although I just worked with her for a year, because then I took a sabbatical and I moved to the UK for 2 years. And by the time I came back, she had moved out of the company, and um, the company looked very different in that sense. I think, but what she taught me in that year, and I have to say this, that 1 year was really tough. When I was in that 1 year, it was like, I was like, what the hell's happening to me? Like, what all am I going through? But I think when I look back, I know that 1 year was like a master class for me to understand. So when I came back from the UK to head India Design ID, design was in a very interesting space at that time in India. And I think I got the canvas to do what one wanted to do with it. and the opportunities to kind of to bring the best that I could. Because I think by then when I came back, I had the global exposure. I understood design in a very different way, and I was able to introduce it into India into a very different way. Though not a lot of credit gets given to me for that, but that's a different story for another day. Um, but I think I was instrumental in kind of bringing that forth. And answering your direct question that if there was one brand or one person, I think the one person who I would definitely like to mention who had a huge impact on me during this was this architect called Alejandro Aravena. Now, in the year that he came down to India Design ID, like you have Oscars for the movies, for architecture and design, you have something called as the Pulitzer Prize, which is like if you win that, you're God in design. It's like that. And that year, Alejandro was the winner. And Alejandro is from Chile. And with a lot of effort, I got him down to India for the show. And to be very honest, Binoli, to me, he was a masterclass in humility. The man walks in and just his knowledge, his stature, the way he operates, the way, I mean, you have won the biggest award in the world for architecture and design in that year. But the humility that you come in with, the way you interact with the audience, the way your knowledge sharing is, to me, that was a masterclass. And I think from that day up until this minute that I'm talking to you, I think what stays with me is the more successful you get, the more humility you need to have. And I think in addition to him, while this person was not directly involved with the show, and of course, I've interacted with him in very different capacities. The other one was a gentleman from India, late Mr. B.V. Doshi. He was also a Pulitzer Prize winner, but in a different year. But again, I think I have had some examples around me who have been such brilliant people, such brilliant architects, such brilliant designers, but the higher they are, the more grounded they are, which unfortunately you don't see it today, at least in India. I mean, right now you have to win one award and you think that you're a blessing to the mankind. But there are enough and more people around who I have had a chance to interact with who have taught me such profound lessons, which I always carry very well with me.
Wow, I'm so glad that you had that first-hand experience with these people, and we don't realize, but that their energies actually linger onto us, and then we pick up so many things, which we never knew existed or we needed. So I'm so glad. But I want to know that I think that COVID has been quite a situation where the brands actually, or the whole design industry feels like it went through a cultural earthquake, because post-COVID, McKinsey reported that 75% of the consumers shifted the brand preferences, and I think 60% of the experts are into the digital first experiences. So, and you have been in the part of the journey of the brands before and after COVID. So from your vantage point, can you please share with us that have you seen any shift into the design and the people and the media the way it was compared to before COVID and after COVID? Or what's your take on that?
So, I'm going to divide this response into two bits, because the way the Indian community, Indian brands and Indian design community responded to COVID and post-COVID versus what's happened globally is again poles apart. I think globally, post-COVID, people just became a lot more mindful. There was this sudden awareness of adding meaning, questioning what everybody was doing. So there was a sudden lot of awareness in international brands as well as the design community that what are we doing? Are we doing the right things? Which also meant there was a lot of technological advancement, which also meant there was a stronger conversation on sustainability, on materiality, on how spaces were being designed in general. So the international shift was very different. Coming to India, I think COVID accelerated the growth in the design industry exponentially. Suddenly, everybody understood what a good home feels like. Why do you need, private spaces in a house? People were suddenly willing to spend a lot more than they would do otherwise. So
Yeah.
there was this whole consumption of design, and suddenly you also saw a lot of new brands coming. I think in India, what COVID also did was open up doors for product designers. Like suddenly now in India, in the last 5 years, Indian product design is in a very, very promising space. There are some amazing designers who've found great platforms in India and are doing some fantastic work.
What do you mean by product design? Like
What
what
I
kind
mean
of
by
products?
product design is people who are doing your furniture, who are doing your lighting, who are working with Indian craftsmen to create made in India products. Pre-COVID, I think up until COVID, India was always looked at as a manufacturing unit. So all your international brands would come into India
Yeah.
to get their things manufactured. So it was all white label. But India was never looked at it and celebrated for design, which in the last 5 years is slowly and steadily shifting. Our designs are being appreciated. Our sensibilities are being appreciated. We're all finding our voices internationally on global platforms. So, all of that, I think COVID really brought in a lot of good changes. But at the same time, I think COVID also, and more so social media for that matter, and media in general, um, led to a lot of noise. So, at this point of time, personally speaking, um, there is just too much noise. People are doing things for the gram. Everything is for the gram. It's not about whether this is meaningful or not. It's There are lobbies that are created, there are groups that are created. It's almost becoming like Bollywood in that sense. And the discourse of design is breaking slowly. Um, the sanctity that design used to have is no longer there. And the reason I can compare that is when I started my career, the way architects were, the way designers were, the way brands were, the way media interacted with this community was poles apart. It was very organic, it was very simple, it was very inclusive. It was, there was a sense there was this sense of a unified feeling. Uh, COVID has changed that. Social media has changed that. Media in general has changed that. And which personally, I find that disheartening on many levels because you see the curve of change. So while there are good things that are happening, there are also these things that make you question as to what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, I mean, COVID has definitely been a shape shifter for this industry.
Wow. I mean, one, as from an outsider, would not even think about this because usually when you think of interiors, you think of, Italy, or when you think of
Correct.
fashion, you think Paris. And like very rightly you said that, India used to be like this manufacturing hub, but we never
Correct.
perceived India as like, oh, you would not think of like one brand which would resonate with you when it comes to design
Right.
or media. But I mean that this is such a stark difference of what you've just pointed, and I can vouch for it because I've worked in India and I work here, and the culturally people are so different. And I moved
Yes.
actually to the UK to study at London Business School, and before I moved, I did not even know anything of ESG. And someone told me that take electives around ESG, and I'm like, okay, but I didn't even know what that is. And here the whole world was talking about sustainability and climate and
Right.
this and that, and then you just feel that you're so behind in your thought process, so
Right.
you have to really pick it up. But no, thanks for sharing because something which I hope the listeners listen and then people at least make the right choices, not just Instagrammable, stuff.
That's my eternal wish, which I don't think, I mean, I'm not so optimistic about it, but let's hope for the best.
So, Kamna, when brands actually are built from the scratch, so I want to know what percent of the budget really goes into brand positioning or branding, Does it depend on the industry or the company, at what stage the company is, or what product segment they are in, or what the competitors are doing? So when you are designing a strategy for a brand, be it digital or print or celebrity endorsement, can you just give us like an idea in how, because you've led actually a lot of brand strategies as well, so can you give us some color to that?
Yeah, that's what CRISP does. I think for us, I mean, the way I see it, again, there are two ways. So I constantly say I'm split into two because there is one side that works with the international clients because the international clients work very differently than how business happens in India. I mean, I'll tell you something funny. In internationally, I don't even have to introduce what brand strategy means. Here, with 90% of the people, my challenge is first to explain them what brand strategy means. Because brand strategy in India often gets confused with social media marketing or with PR, and PR is like be all end all here. Getting published in magazines is the biggest deal here. So I think my challenges and the way clients respond are two very different dimensions. Now, to answer your question globally, um, there are different agendas that every brand has. Now, if there's a 20 plus year old brand that is working with us, their goals are very different because at that time they're either looking to shake things up or they're looking for some sort of global collaborations that can help them tap into new markets, or they're looking for some sort of a rejig to kind of come in for a breath of new for the breath of fresh air. So that time our approach is very different. That time we are sitting, our process is identifying what's the journey been like, what has been their milestones, where are the gaps that they need to fill, and where is that intelligence that can all come together to help them create a new chapter. So globally, it works very, very differently. Also at CRISP, I think the way we function and the way we look at it is it's never a one size fits all approach. I think for us, it's very important to kind of understand each brand's needs, each brand's challenge to really kind of deep dive into it before we kind of find a solution to it. And every solution looks different. In India, it's it's a little tougher, let's put it like that, because like I said, one has to start at really ground zero for people to understand why they need brand strategy. Why is brand strategy different from PR and the usual marketing? So that itself is a journey. Here, right now, the way design brands work generally, of course, there are exceptions, but 90% of the way the brands is they want instant validation. I think, and that's really what we try to tell our clients that in India, that if you look at international brands, legacy brands within the design space, they were not built overnight. There was a lot of planning that went into it. There was a lot of intent that went into it. There was a lot of planning that went into it. I think here it will take that time for things to change. I'm not saying all brands are like that, but most brands are like that here. Right now, it's all about, are we making an impact on social media? Do we have those number of followers? Is this and this magazine publishing us? What what they fail to realize is all of that is a very short-term myopic thinking.
I was about to say that.
If you want to play the longer game, you have to think differently. And I think that's really the gap CRISP is trying to fill in both India and internationally. So here, unfortunately, the conversations are not about how we want to spread the budgets, how we want to do it. It starts a lot more lower first to kind of get brands to understand things first before they even prepare themselves for the bigger chapters.
Okay. And how do you decide which celebrity you want to endorse? Do you go with their brand image? Do you go with their budget? Or what's that
So
one?
we've not done any celebrity collaborations with any of our Indian clients, but internationally, when we've done, I think it's a lot to do with what kind of meaning are they bringing onto the table, and what kind of intent is there for that collaboration. Sometimes you do a collaboration because you want to enter a new market, and in that market, that name is relevant. So every collaboration is looked at with a very different lens. It's not just about the popularity quotient internationally. In India, like I said, I mean, celebrity endorsements are still very much a part of FMCG and fashion. They still haven't creeped into the design fraternity. Yes, there are on and off collaborations that happen, but
Yeah, like the Gauri
uh,
Khan. Uh,
exactly. So
is,
those are collaborations, but also I think what is interesting is design brands in India. There are very few which are built on corporate structures. Most of them in India, design brands are either family-run businesses or there are husband and wife who are running it. So the approach is very different. It's not a corporate approach.
correct.
It's not a very organized approach. Like they say, right? It's a lot mom and pop driven style of working that happens here. And it will take, I'm not saying it will not change,
Yeah,
it
it
will
will
change.
evolve. Yes.
But it is definitely a slower process.
Sure, sure. No, and while you were saying about, collaborating with if you want to enter into certain markets and, who are the faces there, because there is a wave of all these fashion brands. For example, Deepika is the LVMH,
Correct.
Alia for Gucci, and I think Ananya for Chanel, and so on and so forth, and yeah, so on for Dior. And then overnight, I was thinking of why are all these international brands are suddenly signing up all these Indian actresses? And then I went and did some research, and I was talking to my professor, and that's when we understood that China is slowing down, and they want to get into the Indian markets because that's where the
Correct.
money is.
Yeah.
And that's why they're going and hiring all these Indian
Oh,
actors as a
100%.
brand ambassador.
I'm telling you, whether it's designers individually or brands that we speak internationally, everybody wants to come into India. Everybody wants to find a foothold here. I think the only thing that deters design brands to come into India or designers is because India is a disorganized market as far as interior design is concerned, as far as product design is concerned. So that's why they're very unsettled. They don't know what India is like. So my favorite line to international clients is India is not just one country. Within India, there are multiple Indians
100%.
because
100%.
the way a South India consumer buys and consumes design is very different than what a North India consumer does it. So I think all eyes are on us, and rightly so. I think this is where the money is. This is where the spending capacity is today. And that's also the reason why a lot of fashion brands are suddenly investing in this country. I mean, there was a reason why Dior came to Bombay and did a show at the Gateway. So I think we're all making the right moves, but I think fashion is moving faster just because it's structured very differently. Fashion is still a lot organized, right? You've got players like Reliance, Aditya Birla getting in the corporate structure. In design, you don't have that. And in
Right.
design, as founders, if you're not willing to put in structure, then that is a problem. Like there are just a handful of corporate companies like your Kohlers and Asian Paints and Birla Opuses who are structured. But other than that, I mean, literally, there are only 10% structured companies in interior design and 90% mom and pop.
Okay, okay. And I want to pick your brain into crisp because that's something which is so amazing, which you've started. So founding crisp, and then the whole idea behind keep it crisp. And uh, so I want to know that as a woman founder, did you have any early days where you had to face any challenges for maybe raising money, or when you wanted to win a client just because you're a woman, or any other struggles which no one talks about when you become an entrepreneur?
Ah, you know, it's sudden. So CRISP is going to complete 3 years very soon. We are still a young cultural and curatorial agency, and suddenly this question's kind of zooped the last 3 years in the making. But I think I have to be honest. I think whether it was my career or whether it is as crisp, I've not faced bias because of my gender. I think where I have faced challenges, and we continue to, because we are still a young agency, I think is when I was in jobs, I think most of my challenges came from the women that I worked with. So I think in my case, if I have to be honest, I've not had episodes where I have been made to feel inferior by men. I have actually had episodes and experiences where I have been made to feel small by the women that I'm surrounded with. Whether it was at my previous workspaces where I think, Binoli, I do have to share this with you. I think the minute you are an outspoken, aggressive, ambitious woman, you're a problem for everybody.
I
And I
agree.
think right from the time, and I think this was also because when I started my career, I started with a very survival instinct. So for me, I was an ambitious woman. I am an ambitious woman, and I will always be an ambitious woman. I think that I have always felt has been a threat to the other women. We all keep saying, right, women need to support women and women need to uplift women. As far as I am concerned and my experience is concerned, I've not had women like that in my life. I've only had women who are the opposite around me. Who've unfortunately always, just because one speaks their mind and just because one is probably good at their jobs, you're always seen as a threat. So the one challenge that I always face is, like even today, when I run my own agency, uh, I am, again, there's a dual approach. When I'm fighting internationally or when I'm looking for work internationally, and we work across London, US, Copenhagen, all parts of the European continent. Believe you me, Binoli, even today I can walk into a room and I do that. I don't have a legacy of working internationally. I walk into a room, I present what I've done, I pitch ideas, I do everything, and I get evaluated on talent. I get evaluated on what I bring to the table and what my capabilities are. Here, that's not the case. Here, it's sometimes very disheartening. It's sometimes very sad that having spent 17 years in the business, I am not being evaluated or my company is not being evaluated on talent. There are other periphery factors. Who do you hang out with? Who are you seen with? Which group do you operate in? And there is this, and honestly, that's, I think I'm happy that I have set up a practice that is between both the continents or between two parts of the world, because that is somewhere also important for my internal balance. Unfortunately, at this point of time, there is so much noise within the industry that the minute you have a woman who's trying to get things done, there's everything from character assassination to groupism dynamics to women undercutting women. So it's very different here. I mean, when you ask me how does one acquire a client here or how does one go about finding, I don't have a straight line method here, but I do have a straight line method internationally, because all that is required of me or my team at that point of time is to bring our A game in the forefront. It's not the case here.
And the merit, I mean, you win everything
Yeah,
with merit. And in India, it's a lot about who has endorsed you, who has
yeah.
actually recommended you, and then basis that. And I
So
think
it's
that also,
pretty much about, it's almost sometimes about, and I hate to use this terminology, but it's almost about who are you friends with, whose dinner party you're getting invited to, or whose dinner party you're not getting invited to. It's I'm telling you, it's becoming a lot Bollywood like.
yeah, and I think it's more about the perception of you in terms of who you hang with makes you a certain brand in a certain perceived way. But also, I was reading somewhere that 81% of the consumers, when they buy something or the decision of their brand purchases basis on the brand trust is the key factor. So I think
Right.
the moment you were talking about like both sides of the continent, I was just thinking that in the Western world, the brand trust would be with the product,
Correct.
actual product, and the tangible, features of the product. But while maybe in India, it's more about who is using. If this person, maybe a wealthier person or maybe more renowned person is using, taking whatever, then I think that person is good, and that creates the brand trust. Is that right?
To a large extent, to a very large extent, Binoli. I think in India, it is all about It's a very culturally driven thing. It's a very that if my friend is using it, or if my neighbor is using it, or if this is aspirational, then we are going to be able to sell it. So um again, there are all different kinds of audiences in this country as well, right? So I think there isn't a straight line answer to it, but yes, there is a lot of other dynamics that go around for a brand to be successful. Let's put it like that.
Okay. And Kamla, you have, been a judge into all the a lot of the most prestigious international design awards. So when you are looking at a design from a point of view of, judging, what is a one thing which instantly, tells you something that this is it, and this is a game changer, and this is how you actually pick one amongst the best ones?
So I think whenever I've been on any of the international juries, I think we've all jurors are given a very intense criteria that we have to look for. I think it's a very thought through intensive process that most international awards kind of go through. But I think on a personal level, in addition to the criteria, if you're asking me what I'm looking for in a project when I'm evaluating it, I think it's the ability for any project to evoke emotions. I think for me, a space has to evoke a certain kind of an emotion. It has to kind of move you at an internal level for it to be an impactful space. And to me, also use of materials is very, very important. I somehow don't connect with spaces that have a lot of flashy materials, a lot of um, gold and a lot of bling happening. To me, those are not, I mean, of course, if you're designing retail, then it's a different thing. So for me, the purpose of a space versus the design is also a very important conversation to have. So I think for me, right from the emotional quotient to the materiality to the purpose, I think these are the important things that I really look for when I'm judging anything in any awards competition.
Okay. And Kamna, can you share any personal setback or maybe professional, I can't say setback, but maybe learning or something which at that time it was like the biggest, disappointment, and you thought that, this is it, this is not going to happen. But that turned into the biggest lesson. And in the hindsight, you were like, oh my God, thank God that happened to me. Apart from the one you just told us actually in the beginning.
I was going to say that, but since you've taken that option away from me, I think, so the other day, I was just looking back at life and I was talking to somebody, and you know how they have this before Christ and after Christ, right? I think if I have to look at all the years of my life right now, I think there have been two episodes that have really changed the course of my life. The one, of course, that I spoke about early on into this conversation, and the second one was very, very recent, as recent as early 2023. And I think I don't know how much I can talk about it, but I think to me, uh, I went through a very altering episode at the start of 2023. And to me, that really has changed the core of who I am as Kamna. And I think I thought my toughest period was when I was in a corporate job with media, but I think the early half of 2023 was really probably the toughest in my life. Something that I am still reeling the aftermaths of, because I kind of had two very significant losses back to back, two losses that I was not prepared for, two losses that I was completely blindsided. It's almost like Binoli, my back and my spine was broken. And I am learning every single day, even today, after a year and a half, to find my 2 feet. So to me, and that was also the time when I was building Crisp. I had salaries to pay, I had clients to show up for, and I had work to be done. Uh, and those are the times when I could not even get up from my bedroom to go to my washroom. Those are those tough times. Like today, I can sit and have a conversation with you. Uh, it's because of the help that I have gotten over the last 1 year in that sense. But yes, that's been, I mean, if you ask me, that this Kamna that's talking to you is not the real Kamna. I mean, it's a completely different human being who's there. And if there's an episode that has changed my life, and if that's a setback that's changed my life, then it is that setback. And people think that grief is something that you get over with and you get, you know,
No,
you're able to shove it aside. But I think that's the biggest misconception people carry. I think grief, when you face it emotionally, biologically, physically, it changes your core DNA and you never let go of that. You
no.
just find a way to live with that.
Oh,
Um,
100%. 100%.
so to me, yeah, I'm living with that.
I mean, I want to say a couple of things. So, first of all, thank you for being so vulnerable and so honest and sharing this with us, because it really talks about how strong you are. Because I'm not sure how
No,
many.
I don't know because I think vulnerability is looked at with such a clouded lens, right? You're always expected to be strong. You can't express your emotions. You can't be vulnerable because then you're often looked at as weak.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think that, because I think that's being authentic and being true to yourself is something which only strong people can do it. So first, thank you for sharing this with us. Second, I want to give you a tight hug, baby, virtually, because I'm so sorry you had to go through this, and I definitely second that. That grief is not you get over with. It doesn't it doesn't heal anything. You just get used to it, that you just start dealing internally, externally with a lot of things. It's like, the boiling water and the frog therapy, like, and I think it's pretty much that. So I have also dealt with something similar. I am still not there after, I don't know, God knows, 5, 6 years. I still haven't moved on from what happened. So I totally relate to that. But it's important that you spoke about that. You've been seeking help for 1.5 years.
Right.
So if you don't mind, I want to pick that up. That when was the time you realized that you needed a therapy, and was it difficult to accept, or was it difficult to open up to your therapist? And if you can give us some perspective, because I think the work also you're into, like a very creative side, where you have to be mentally very alert and aware to have this creative juices flowing, right? Because
Yeah.
there's so much of pressure. And like you
Right.
said, when you were building Crisp, you were already going through something. So I think at that time, maybe the therapy must have been the best idea. But I genuinely want to know, so that, people who are also going through can get inspired and seek help outside. Because sometimes, we go to our friends. I'm a very good listener, and I
Right.
give advice to people even if they don't want. So a lot of people come and confide into me, and I do not. Everything remains with me. I do not even share it with a
Sure.
single soul. But the
Sure.
thing is that I'm not an expert. So I
Correct.
could tell you a lot of things, but what a therapist can do, I can't do it. So I have some friends, I tell them that, I'm there for you, but I think you should
Right.
go to the therapist because that's a job. So that's also
Right.
the reason I'm asking that, how do we first acknowledge that there's something wrong, and it's okay to like go to a therapist. It's not a big deal. If I'm unwell, I'll go to my GP, or if I have, some other thing. Maybe if I have fever, I'll go and take paracetamol. So it's something as normal as that.
So I'm going to answer this in parts. I think the way I recognized it, I think I have to somewhere thank social media for this, because social media, because thankfully thankfully celebrities have started talking about it. There is discourse and there is dialogue on mental health and depression. So there is awareness about it, right? So I think I reached a point in January, February, March 2023, actually February, March 2023, where I had massive health crisis. But it's during that time when I also realized that if I will not get help, I will probably end up taking my own life. It came to that point. And I was like, I think I don't want to do that. And how do I get out of that? I need help for that. And that's really, I have this distinct memory where I was like, if I don't seek help now, I know I may end up doing something to my own self. So I rather kind of go and seek help. Then started the journey of finding the right therapist, which is a journey in itself. I think finding the right therapist is one of the most toughest tasks in this world. But I was lucky. I had to go through two really bad ones to land up on the third one, who now is my therapist for the last 1.5 year, one year plus. And um, once I found her, it wasn't difficult for me because she did create that safe space, a space which was not judgmental, which was not clouded with anything, but just for me to be able to express myself. I definitely, Binoli, would like to say to everybody who's going to listen to this, there is no shame in seeking help. I really think everybody should seek help, should be into therapy. And being in therapy does not, of course, sometimes you end up being in therapy because you've gone through certain things, but sometimes therapy can also work as opening up your mind, getting balance into your life. I think all of us go through different childhoods, go through so much trauma. Sometimes we don't even recognize trauma. Like in my work that I've done in all these sessions with my therapist, Binoli, she's sometimes told me that this is what trauma looks like. This is what abuse looks like. I didn't even know that is what it looked like. So I think, in my opinion, everybody needs to kind of get into therapy. Yes, it's a very, very dark journey. It is, and of course, it's a very personal journey as well, but it is dark. It is very painful because you're really getting out everything. You're sitting with uncomfortable things. But it also leads to healing on some level. It also leads to us finding acceptance for our own self, which is very, very important. I truly feel there are enough and more people out there trying to pull you down, trying to make you feel smaller, betraying you, hurting you. You don't have to do that for yourself. You have to be your best friend. And I think therapy helps you do that. It helps you build an EQ. It helps you build a system inside where you don't have to depend on anybody outside. You have to find a way to depend on yourself. It's a very slow process. Like even today, just because I'm in therapy, that does not mean I'm okay. There are days when I still can't get out of my bed, where I'm still in a frozen state. But then there are days when I can get up and take on the world and work like a horse. But this is something I've come to accept about myself, that yes, I am in a dark space. I am on medications, and this is going to be my journey, but I have stopped feeling sorry about it. I've accepted it. And I think the minute you do that, you've already won half the battle. And I think everybody, if you feel even the slightest hint internally, go seek that help.
Wow. More power to you, Kamna. I genuinely feel that, yes, you're halfway there, and very, very soon you'll be on the other side, and we would be drinking in,
Yes.
somewhere really nice in London in the sunny weather.
Absolutely.
It's not
Absolutely.
today, it's quite gloomy, otherwise I would have told you, but yeah, we will. Maybe mulled wine if you're here in December. So,
Absolutely.
and we'll celebrate this. So, I want to end with one last question, that if you were to give one piece of advice to all the women who are listening today, who want to make their mark into a creative industry, into
Correct.
design, fashion, media, what is that one piece of advice would you give it to all these aspiring women?
Listen to your heart and go kick some ass. You don't have to listen to anybody because everybody will have a different opinion. All you need to do is listen to yourself and do what feels right to you. Till the time you can get up every day in the mirror, till the time you can get up every day, look at yourself in the mirror and have a conscience, and you know you're doing the right thing. Don't think about anybody and just go do what feels right for you.
I love that. I love that. And it's simple and easy, but it's not easy to
It's
imbibe
not.
into.
It's
So
not.
I really
But I really think the day every woman starts listening to her own voice, we will be different people.
absolutely. And no one else, not even your
No one
parents, not
else.
even your sibling,
Yeah.
partner, friends. No,
Oh, you end up feeling, oh, this is selfish. But I
no,
think being selfish is not wrong.
no.
Thinking about yourself is not wrong. Thinking for yourself is not wrong. Like you said, you said something early on in this conversation. You're given one life. So if you're given that one life, are you supposed to make yourself happy or are you supposed to make 10,000 people happy who probably have nothing to do with you?
But even those 10,000 people, Kamna, would find one more thing and they would not be
Yes.
happy. So
Yes.
eventually there is no winning out there, right? Today
Exactly.
you like, I'm wearing white, tomorrow I'll wear blue, and you're like, no, this is not nice. So
Correct.
it is perpetually. So just make one person happy, which is yourself. That
Absolutely. Just yourself. That's it.
Yes, so that you can sleep peacefully at night.
Correct.
Uh, yeah, even I was also a people pleaser, and I would do everything, and then especially to please my parents and society, and the day I started
No,
taking
and as
vacation,
Indian women, we are wired very differently.
yeah,
Like we have to, I think when we become aware, there is a lot of reconditioning that we have to do internally, externally, because I think the society that we live in, and I hate to make it the East-West debate, but the way Indian women are brought up is very, very different.
I agree, and I have broken all the norms. I did not join my dad's business.
That's why you're a force.
And in Gujaratis, girls are expected to get married very early,
Correct.
to have children. That's your aspiration in life. If you want to have a career, become a fashion designer or interior designer for a few years.
Jewelry
Then,
designer.
yes, jewelry designer, and then have children, and then, basically do kitty parties, do social
Correct.
media, travel, put pictures. And when you do not do any of that, first, people don't get it. Why? They think that there's some problem or something wrong
Correct.
with you. Then you have to fight, you have to debate, and then most of the men, they like their wives or the partners to be slightly lesser than them. So they would
Yes.
love their mothers and sisters to be very smart,
Yes.
very empowering. But when it comes to my wife, no, she cannot
Yeah.
be. So then dealing with, those kind of relationships and, finding a man. So it wasn't easy to come to the terms that, okay, this is who I am, but I have to give it to my mother that my mother has been a backbone behind who I am. And she has always told me that, be a person you want to marry, do not
Yeah.
chase a man, one. And, no matter what you do, just think that you can do anything, because if you think you
Yeah.
can, you will. So, and there's absolutely no shame. And one thing she told me, which I'll never forget, that no matter who your father is, who your husband is, it doesn't matter who the man in your life is, you got to be financially independent. And all your life
100%.
choices will depend on that. So,
100%. You're so right when you're saying this. Your mom gave this advice to you. My dad gave this advice to me when I was very young. And when my divorce had happened, and he just said, he's like, I am here for the rest of the life that is, but I want you to make your own money because the empowerment and the liberation that you get with your own money, nothing else in this life can give you. Education and your own money. The
absolutely.
power that it gives you, nothing else in this life can give you. And 21 to 37, 30, 37, 38, I haven't taken a penny from my parents for anything. Even when I set up Crisp, it was my own money that is there in the company. And I think that is why I am so proud to share this with you, because I know I've built every little thing with my own hands. And I think um, the validation, the self-validation that it gives you, nothing can give you. No relationship can give you. And you're so right on the other thing as well. Conditioning starts from home. It starts from your parents. It starts from how they bring you up.
Yeah.
Um, Are they bringing you up as women who are supposed to be meek with the men or in relationships or dim their own shine? Or are they bringing you up as powerhouses that are meant to take on this world?
Wow. And on that note, absolutely, two powerhouse women. And that's also the reason you're here as a force because you inspired me so much when I started
Thank you.
looking at your journey. And I hope and pray that, you do amazingly well. And the
Thank you so much.
maybe we do this again when the crisp is maybe 30 years old or maybe
Yes.
not 30, I think. But yeah, long enough. And I
No,
wish you well. But
thank you.
before I let you go, I need to ask some rapid fire question. Whatever
Okay.
comes to your mind, very quick. Do
Okay.
not think about it. So,
Okay.
first question is, what would you tell Kamna, who is 16 years old in Bombay, if you meet her today?
Make your own money. That's it. Nothing else. Make your own money. No, make your own money and travel the world. There is nothing better than traveling the world.
I agree. I agree. A book that shaped the way you think.
Ooh, that's a tough one because I do read a lot of books, but the one book that I keep turning to because I think spirituality is becoming an important part of my life. I think the one that I keep turning to is Bhagavad Gita.
Interesting
Yes.
choice.
Thank
One
you.
designer or artist who completely changed the way you see the world.
Zaha Hadid. Zaha Hadid is a very well-known architect, and she's the only woman who made it in a man's world. She's no more, but and her work always speaks very subjective opinions. But to make a mark in a man's world, at that in that way, she's the one.
Okay. One brand you're secretly obsessed with right now.
Loewe.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. What a comeback. I mean, not a comeback, but what a turnaround, right? In terms of
I
perspective.
just think I think it's a brand that is, sometimes brands have to recognize what they're doing and find a way to turn around. That's
Yeah.
the brand.
Okay. Favorite source of upgrade for trends, maybe a book or a museum or newsletter, magazine.
To me, three things: travel, museums, books. There is nothing, there is nothing more enriching than travel.
I agree. That's my favorite thing to do. All my money either goes
Ditto.
into the things which I wear or the travel.
No, I think for me it's the other way. It first goes in the travel and then it goes in what I buy.
What's that one non-negotiable, thing which you would tell it to the brand owner, no matter what to compromise on?
Integrity and values. Very, very important. I think uh, if you're playing the short-term game, do whatever you have to. But if you want to really play the long-term game, there is nothing more important than integrity.
What's one piece of art that has actually had a very profound impact on you? Or a
Ah,
painting or exhibition?
there are so many of them. It's very difficult to point one. Yeah, I
Very
don't
top of
know.
your
I
mind.
genuinely don't know. There are just so many of them.
Okay.
But yeah, let's say, I mean, I can say in the recent times. In the recent times, I don't know if you've had a chance to visit the Serpentine Gallery by Mariam Tabassum. In the recent times, that's the one that's really created an impact on me.
Okay. And last but
Serpentine
not
Pavilion.
Okay, and
Sorry?
last but not least, what's a one self-care routine you swear by or self-care ritual you never skip?
You really want to know that?
I do.
No matter how busy I am, I need to watch 1 hour of Netflix every single day. That's my binge. I have to watch it. I that's my way of switching off from the world. So no matter where I am, no matter what it is, I have to have 40 to 60 minutes of downtime in on Netflix
And
or
on
Apple
that
TV.
note, my self-care routine is one episode of Friends every night before I go to bed. So, so we're quite alike in that. So,
Correct.
but thank you, Kamna. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
your journey with clarity,
Thank you.
curiosity, and so much of creative courage. You have
Thank
reminded us that the best brands don't just sell, they tell the stories with purpose, and you're one of them. And you have shown us also, no matter what life throws at you, the way you adapt and navigate becomes actually the blueprint of your own brand. And to all the listeners around the world, remember the world of copies and in the world of everything what is there on Instagram, be an original piece of work. And in the world of noise, create your own narrative because your force isn't just in what you create, but also the purpose you design it with. So this is not just a podcast, it's a global sisterhood of creators, dreamers, and doers. So let's go ahead, sketch our own blueprint, because never forget, you are a force, and if anyone can do it, it's you. So on that note, stay amazing, stay powerful. Until next time, bye.
Thank you, Binoli. Thank you so much. And thank you once again for having me. I've had the nicest time chatting with you.
Likewise. Thank you, Kamna.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to You Are a Force. Hit subscribe and join us next week for more powerful stories from women rewriting the rules. Until then, keep building, keep leading, and remember, you are a force.